Just finished this coffee table project. It's all made out of steel with a walnut insert for the wood. It's a reclaimed tabletop. And I thought I'd go ahead and show you exactly how I built it. So the whole top is made out of square tubing and plate steel. It's all 1/8 inch thick material. And the square frame is just welded together. The corners are mitered, but the center is just dropped in and welded in place. Nothing really too fancy here. Then the top itself, I plasma cut out 2 squares basically. And you can see how there's a little bit of a overlap from the bottom frame to the top, and that's to accept the weld bead all the way along. It's probably a good hour and a half worth of welding, maybe an hour, I don't know. So one thing that happens when you weld plate onto the side of a bar like that, and I found even if you really go slow and let it cool a lot, it can still happen. So I usually just give her and let it just do its thing. But if you look down this pipe here, not sure if you can see it very well, I'm sure you can, it warps the hell out of it. So this bar here, because the hot weld on top, when it shrinks, it's actually pulling the top of the bar, and that causes a huge wow in the bar that way. There'll be another one this way in the top here, and then there's also a slight bend like this in the top because of it. It's kind of hard to see in the top one. You might be able to make it out a little bit. And what I do to fix that is I just use a jack and some chain and some piece of metal that's stronger than the table. There you go. Just kind of go gently, work your way along. It is a table, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but get it as good as you can. Unfortunately, there's nothing even mildly entertaining about this next part for either of us, so it's kind of one of those things you just got to get done. Well, there's 2 hours of my life I'm not going to get back. Guess you could call this the rough ground stage. This gives you an idea of the direction the whole thing's going. So then on the back side, I just have some 1 inch by 1/8 flat bar. And then I'm going to weld in these kind of tabs, one on each side and one in the middle, and that's what we're going to be able to screw the wood top down to. Again, using plasma cutter templates, I cut the legs at a 1/4 inch by 2 inch angle iron. So the legs are going to get welded to the table from the back side, so you don't see any welds here. And the only thing that I really do with these is this top cut that actually sits on the base of the table. I really take time to make sure that it is perfectly square. so that when I put it down on the surface here, my legs are going to be square to the tabletop. So I just go ahead and weld all 4 of those on. They're not completely cleaned up yet, but this is the way it's going to kind of turn out because I do want the rust for the color. Alright, I've got some progress here. Sitting on the legs. Again, this is still really rough. I'm going to polish the top right out to a full shine and keep the legs a little bit rusty. It gives you an idea of what she's going to look like. Next step is going to be to fit the wood that's going to sit in the top. And for that I have some reclaimed tabletop, piece of walnut. On the wood I just coat it with boiled linseed oil. Any oil will do. I just have always kind of used this. Actually, it's the end of a bottle that I've had for probably 15 years, so time to get some more advanced stuff probably, but it does the job anyways. So at the end of the legs for the feet of the table, I like to use something like this. These are meant to be screwed on this way to a bottom of a chair leg, but what I do is kind of drill them out a little, and then I take a 1/2 inch rod and they can slide right over like that, and they're sitting on a metal washer like so. Then I can just weld these onto the inside of that angle iron leg, and that gives you a nice little foot that won't scratch up the floor. There's probably another 2 hours of sanding and buffing on the top, so I'll spare you that. So to seal up all the bare metal, I use something called Penetrol. It's made by Flood. It's a paint conditioner, but what it does is it seeps into the metal and even the rust and seals it up and kind of stops it from going any further, and it lasts quite a long time. Got my little spacers put down, just some dabs of silicone holding them in place, and I drilled holes through them so the screws will be able to come from the bottom easily. So I'm going to fit the top and see how it fits. Pretty good. Well, there you go. I think in the end, skill-wise, not a very hard project to do if you have a welder and a grinder. I mean, you don't even need a plasma cutter really, you can be doing it with a cutoff wheel. It's more time consuming than anything, but once you're done, I think you have a pretty neat product. So something I'd recommend if someone's even just starting out, because look at what you can produce with basically just time. Anyways, thanks for watching.